So welcome back to my studio. I thought today we could do something a little bit different. Um, I want to preface this by saying you do not have to have this journal. You can nature journal in any journal. If you do use watercolor, I would suggest using 140 pound, probably hot press paper, uh, just so that you have a good paper that's going to work well with your watercolors. And this journal is from an Etsy shop, and it's Wonder Cabin. So if you're interested in this journal, they are a bit pricey, but they are handmade and they are well worth it. You can pick the cover that you want. These are leather, and the pages are 140 pound. I believe they are um, Fabriano paper, if I'm not mistaken. It's 140 pound hot press paper. So, and she's done the binding is just really wonderful. And if you can see here, all of these little spatters all over mine, I was fertilizing my plants and the fertilizer pump was a little bit clogged. So it shot out in a different direction and it spattered my book. But I was thinking about it and I thought, well, there could be worse things that happened. And this was actually fertilizer for plants. So it's kind of fitting. So the idea behind this perpetual journal is to go through each one of your pages, and you're gonna date it for 1 week, and you do this through all of the pages, but you do not add a year because this perpetual journal is going to be something that you keep for many years, and you'll be documenting whatever it is that you find for that week in your local area over the course of years. And I thought this was just such a brilliant idea. And for those of you that are interested in your local plant life and or you want to learn more, this is a great way to do it. So I got mine for Christmas, and I went through and added the dates. And this is the first spread that I did, or first illustration drawing. Um, and for the life of me, I cannot figure out what this plant is. And it's really hard in the wintertime because I don't have any leaves to look at or any flowers. I have these dried I have these dried berries, and I don't even know if this is the color of them, um, or if this is just something that happens after the frost. Um, I thought that it was a maybe a June berry, some sort of service berry. Um, But once I opened up the berry, the seed, as you can see, I'm just going to put it on my journal there. The seed is really flat and there's only one. So if you have any idea, I live in upstate New York, like way, way northern New York, about 30 minutes outside the Canadian border. Um, if you have any idea what this might be, um, let me know in the comment section because I think I went down this rabbit hole for a good 45 minutes at least. Um, so yeah, um, I did want to do um, another little piece for this week. So typically, you're going to add one drawing per week, and that's doable. But I love this lichen so much, and it's so vibrant, especially in the wintertime when there's snow on the ground, and then you have this little pop of color. So I thought it would be fun to do this little twig together today. And these don't have to be, these sketches don't have to be anything that take an enormous amount of time. They're sketches, and um, but I do want to document, the color of this because it's so vibrant. That's going to be a big part of it. And I love putting shadows underneath things. I think it really finishes off these sketches. So I'm going to start with a micron. And I will say that I was lucky to go to a botanical workshop um, a few months ago and around the Woodstock, New York area. And Laura was there teaching, and so was her name is Giacomina Farillo. if you can, she's on Instagram. Her work is just amazing. It's artistry at its best. And she's a fantastic lady. All of these ladies are just really wonderful people. Wendy Hollander from Draw Botanical, who she's wonderful as well. These are really, really great people that had a lot to share. If you ever have a chance to take a workshop from any of them, I would highly recommend it. And finally, Jean McKay, who I also love. I love her style. Um, so I'm going to use my Micron pen, which is what a lot of them did in this workshop. And I've never just sketched with a pen. And there are ways to do it that are less frightening than you would think. So we're not going to hold the pen like this, like we would a pencil if we're writing something. We're going to hold the pen at the very back so that we have a loose grip on it and we can get more of a sketchy type um, line. So I'll show you on this piece of scrap paper that if I hold the pen at the back and I hold it on its side, when I try to sketch or draw something, you probably can't even see this. The camera's probably not even picking it up. But um, it's a very non-committal kind of line. Even though you can't erase it, it's so light that if you make a mistake, you can correct yourself. Nobody's going to see it, especially when you've got watercolor down and some writing and things like that. Um, so that's how I'm going to start. And I thought that I would start down here at the bottom. I wanted to add this to the little corner right here. And the way I'm going to start this is, let me just get some of this stuff out of the way here. Okay. It's a little tough to keep this open um, just because it's new. Okay. So I'm going to probably put this right here. And I'm going to mark out some of these, just like the size of it. So I'll make little marks here. And then once I add that shadow underneath, it'll make a lot more sense, I think. So, and then I can just start sketching. And like I said, I'm going to hold this um, at the back end here, and I'm going to make some lines. And these are what I like to call, they're just like scribbly lines. Um, they're sketchy lines. Um, so I'm going to take my time here, and I'll probably speed this up a little bit. Um, okay, so I think this is, where the fun part is adding in a lot of this texture that I see. Um, and I'm just going to use these scribbly kind of lines to get some texture in there. And this is kind of rough up here. And I'm just going to make these little um, circular scribbles, I guess. Um, because if you look at this, lichen, um, there's no, it's not really anything but crusty, circular shapes in here that I'm seeing, very, like random. So I'm going to try and pay attention to the really light areas on top and where it gets a little bit more in shadow down at the bottom. And I can also annotate that with my watercolor if I don't get it quite right. But there's a lot of shadows like underneath these. And these little things that look like tiny, tiny mushrooms are actually like the fruit of the lichen. Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that as far as the sketch goes. And I'm going to start laying in some of the color. And I'm going to go with, I don't want this to be like, is it can't be super hyper realistic. I don't have a brush that small. So I am using a zero, and these are the silver black velvet watercolor brushes. But I'm going to go in with a really, really light yellow. And I'm going to add that as my first wash. And it's just really, really vibrant, which is what I really like about this. And I'm going to make sure that I pay special attention to these, and I don't want to. I can actually do a light wash of yellow on top of those now that I'm thinking about it, and we'll bump up the saturation on those with some orange. And there's actually some other lichen growing on this over here that's gray in color. So I am going to add that in. It's just going to be really subtle because this is such a small piece. And I'm going to go into these and just drop in that pop of orange. I really want those to stand out. And I can always go back in with my pen when I'm finished and add a little bit more of a shadow or add some other details. And I want to add one that's sticking up right here. And I can always go back in, like I said, with my pen and kind of detail that out a little bit just so you can see it better. And I think for the shadow, let's see what we got here. I always like to add the complement of yellow to get like a shadow color, which is purple. So you get some really nice neutral browns when you add purple into its complement, which is yellow. So I'm going to drop some of this into these little shadow areas and down here at the bottom. And I'm almost getting, when I look at this, um, I'm getting some sort of like yellowy green um, from this too. It's got a little bit of green in there. I'm going to add. Maybe I can glaze that over. Um, it's not what I wanted to do. And okay, I'll just blot that right up. And then I want to add in some of this gray. Let's see. In this little palette that I'm using, it's filled with Daniel Smith watercolors, and this is made by Etchr, and I love this. It's probably been one of the best little palettes that I've ever used. And what I like so much about it is that they're porcelain, and they come with these little felt um, dividers, and they also come with little swatch card there, so you know what you're grabbing. But yeah, they've got these little separators in here, which is really great. Um, okay, so I know that. Let's see. It would be fun to do to find a bigger piece of bark and to do a big piece of lichen and really get in there with the details. But for now, I'm going to stick with this little piece because this is my this will be the second piece from this week, and I don't want to go too crazy because I want to leave room for other sketches throughout the period of time that I have the sketchbook. So, and I'm just mixing up a little bit um, of a gray, like a grayish brown for the bark. That's not where I was mixing. Okay, so I think I'm gonna play around with some of these colors that I'm seeing, and I really do like this. I think this is a quinacridone. Oh, this is an Aussie red gold that I'm using, and I think that is more the color than I am looking for. And I'm just gonna kind of scumble the paint across these areas because I want some of this lighter yellow to show through. So I don't want to completely cover it up. I will down here just because this is in shadow. And then I'm going to add some green. I just feel like this needs like a little addition of some green into it because that's kind of what I'm seeing. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go back in and add a couple of little details with my Micron pen. And I'm also going to add this shadow here. If I can keep this from sliding all over the place. Um, So with shadows, the tricky thing is, I think, um, is to get your shadow in there realistically. Um, if your shadow becomes the first thing that you see, then it's too dark. So it's always best to start off lighter than what you think. I think they should be pretty subtle. Um, and then let's see, got this coming up like this. Okay, so I can take my kneaded eraser and then just kind of blot up where my shadow is going to be so that you can't see the all the pencil lines. And I don't mind pencil lines as long as they're not super dark. Um, so I'm going to use I've got a moon glow here, which is a pretty good shadow color, and so is shadow violet, which I have right next to that, which is this color here, which is a little bit more on the gray side. Okay. Um, it's always good, I think, too, to wet where your shadow's going to be. That way, you know that it'll be diffused. And with shadows, the darkest part of the shadow is going to be always close to the subject. And then you want the color to kind of blur out as you go. And if it's not blurry on this outer edge enough for you, rinse your brush off, kind of tap it off a little bit so that it's still wet. And then you can soften out this edge like that. But I don't think that's quite dark enough for me right here. So I'm going to drop in a little bit more of this color while it's still wet. And then this shadow here is very light. And I definitely want to make sure that I get this one in. And I don't want to lose this little strip of light that I have here, but that is entirely too dark. Now I can go back in and add just a little bit. Okay, so I've got these shadows in here, and I wanted to add a little bit more texture through here for the bark, which I'm just going to do some lines. Okay. I accidentally made a little pen mark right there, but that's not a big deal. I can always add some writing right there and cover it up. And this is for our own observation anyway. These don't have to be um, masterpieces by any stretch. Mine is certainly not. Um, I do hope to improve my drawing skills and my observation skills, and I think that's the fun part for me anyway. So I'm going to really add a pop of this. This isn't the Aussie gold. This is a new Gamboge. I'm going to add a nice little pop on these so they really stand out. And I think on the big one, if you look closely, I'm going to try to do this. I don't know how effective this is going to be, but I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow or a little bit of a darker color around the edge. Um, like I said, I don't know if this is going to work. There we go. Because it's super tiny, but the edges are kind of raised or folded up a little bit. And I wanted to kind of get that in there. And there we go. And I'm going to do a couple of little areas that are this new gamboge. I think that's pretty much it. And what I'll do is I'll just add in the date. So this was December 31st, and this is 2024. And this type of lichen is a crustose lichen, and it forms like a crust on whatever surface. And you wouldn't be able to get it off unless you come. I mean, you'd have to destroy the whole thing in order to get it off. But so I'm going to make a little annotation here. Crustose lichen. I can also put where I found it. And I found mine and make sure this is dry. I'm actually going to hit it with the dryer just to make sure it's dry. And where I have this little pen mark, I'm going to use that as the capital, as the thing to my J. So it's um, the park is the Jack Williams Community Park. I think that's what it's called. There we go. So that is my first entry in my perpetual journal, and we'll be doing this sporadically. Whenever I feel like bringing this to you, hopefully once or twice a month, we'll be doing something like this. And that's pretty much it. I'll leave all the links down below for everything that I mentioned, including the etchr palette and also for this journal. So I will see you next week, and we'll be on to something else. Have a great day. Bye bye.